What the hell?
Happy 1 year anniversary, Peter.
Thanks.
Right. So Tim, you've been working on documentation.
Yeah, been remaking our website.
Show those beautiful animations again.
Got this, got the zoom ins. Big one, small one, big one.
Do you have a estimated ship date for this stuff?
It's probably gonna be good to go with the release, I think.
With the release. Yeah. Speaking of which, when's that coming? Alright, Peter, would you like to blow out the candle?
I can try. Don't think it's gonna necessarily work though.
Well, those Swedes. Oh, almost, Peter. One more time. Well done.
There we go.
You did it.
I think the gravity is a bit broken because he was blowing from that way, but it blew out into that.
Don't question it then.
I mean, it goes around the planet. What kind of cake is it though?
It's an orange cake because Studio Cherno.
Project Orange.
Ooh, I got wax on me.
Hang on.
Maybe the camera can see. Okay, so we have a bug here that Tim wants me to fix, and I know nothing about it, and we thought it would be fun for the devlog to show how I go about fixing a bug in Hazel. So here's the bug in Jira with dark mode on. Changes to materials don't always update in the same. Okay, so I guess you can explain what the bug is.
So sometimes when you'd open the material editor and make a change to the material, that change wouldn't be observed in the scene. So in the screenshot here, you can see that the emission is 0, and that is clearly a very emissive material. So that's not being updated like live.
And that's, you've double clicked on like a material in the content browser?
I think I even opened it from the mesh. But yeah, either or, it doesn't really matter. And so Peter's actually detailed some of his findings in this bug in the comments below.
The instance of the material asset changes after we've edited or closed it. The only reason this is an issue is because the mesh components references material asset by instance, not by handle. Most likely there's a bug with the reference counting system. I doubt it. I like how this is like Peter's devlog. He's just like, yep, I've opened it, guys. I can reproduce it. Okay, I guess let's just like make it happen because I don't really like to read what you guys say. So, let's open up. That was just like something you created, that little sandbox example?
Yeah, it can be easily recreated. Like
can you reproduce it?
Yeah. And then we find this material, which is green emission. And so now it should work, right?
Yeah.
I close it, and now it's not going to get updated. You see that? Yep. And is it like... Oh, well, there you go.
It just crashed.
That's... I haven't seen that happen before. Okay. There you go.
And there's more. I can't believe Peter tried to blame my reference counting system. Can you believe that, Tim? Is that not just stirring up some drama?
Oh, yeah. How could Peter
Badmouth
the reference counting system?
Yeah.
Have so little faith in the
That
reference
thing,
counting system.
Yeah, because like, of course the reference counting system works perfectly for all the games we've shipped, and then suddenly, when editing materials, it just breaks. Likely.
And now, see, now it doesn't crash.
No, it doesn't crash.
The crash is like, I've never seen the crash.
But this is clearly wrong. Like, whatever this material... I can't edit the color either.
Nothing changes. So the way it works, you now have to reassign it to the mesh, and then the changes will take effect.
Okay, so somehow...
Or as Peter said, restart the editor, but this is...
Yeah. Oh, and restarting the editor works.
Yeah.
How
well, according to Peter. I haven't actually tested that, but yeah. I know
Yeah.
that resetting the material like that works.
Yeah, so once that's done, it will do need serialize, and it means it should write it to disk. I believe. So if we drag that, when we finish dragging, it will try and serialize that to the material asset, which is, yeah, it looks like that same handle with an emission value of what it should be. And I guess we write that out to the file. Okay, so it looks like the file gets its value saved correctly. Yeah, 1.2. Okay, so now then what that means is that somehow, I think the functionality, what we've determined is the functionality of this and this seems to be good. It looks like somehow whatever this static mesh is holding in the material table, it doesn't seem to be linked to this anymore for whatever reason. I think I might know why. If we look at, so basically the way that this works is that in the components, we have obviously a static mesh component, which has a material table. And the material table is basically just like a map of material index to material asset. Material asset is what we just saw. And so what happens is when it has to render that, it will basically just look up that material table and ask it, do you have a material at index like 0? And if it does, then it will use that. So the way that happens is, well, I guess we can look at scene renderer, but it's probably in Vulkan renderer. So if I submit a static mesh, see, that gets submitted with a material table. I guess we should just verify that it's actually being submitted with the correct material table, but I'm sure it is. Yeah, so static mesh component material table, that gets submitted into here. We have a material table, and you can see that what it does is it asks to see if it has a material at the given index. So what we can do here, if we wanted to, is we could basically just make sure that that material asset actually had that correct value when it's submitted for rendering. So to test that out, what I would do is we'll launch in debug mode, and I'm going to make a new scene that just has that single, that basically just has that single, cylinder or whatever we make with one material, just so that that way it's easier to debug, because obviously in the current scene, it's submitting like 30 meshes. And so it's going to be really hard for us to find the one we're looking for. So let's look at that green emission material again, which is now that color. That's fine. Let's make that green again. Okay, so that works, right? I might just reduce this skylight though. All right, so that still works. But if I close it and reopen it, and let's make this red, so that doesn't work. Okay, so now what I want to do then is, what seems to have happened is, if we try and render now, and we know that that's the only thing being rendered, so if I put a breakpoint here, so we can look at the, okay, let's just see if it finds the material, right? So, material table has material at index 0. I'm guessing, yeah, that definitely has a material at index 0. What I'm looking for is,
The name.
now I kind of want to look at the buffer, I guess, which is mildly annoying, but it's going to tell me whether or not I've made it red. That's why I changed it from green to red, because that would be easier to see. So if I look at the uniform storage buffer, which is this guy over here, so material 0 second. Okay. But the problem is, again, the layout is going to matter. But it should just be, if I go to PBR static, and we look at that. So albedo color should actually be the first one. Okay, so look at that. What does that look like to you?
Well, it's very green and it'll
Yes, so it's green. It's that green material. So somehow it's not, well, we kind of knew that because
we're seeing it.
We're seeing it, and if it's seeing it, then it's probably being submitted to the renderer. So somehow what that means is that they have to be different materials.
But something happens on material panel close that makes it lose reference.
I don't think it loses reference. I just think that the material asset, I think what happens is, but that doesn't make sense either, does it? What I'm thinking is that potentially it serializes the value correctly, and that's why we see
This.
That being red. Yes, that part works. But it just doesn't that's not the one that it uses for rendering for whatever reason. Like
Nah, I
it's
just think it never reads it back from the disk or something like that.
yeah, but it shouldn't have to because I'm pretty sure like what we're doing is we should be editing the material that is within the material asset.
Mm-hmm.
And the material asset that we have should be the exact same material asset that is coming from that material table. Because we've set it. But hang on, but does that make sense? Maybe that doesn't make sense. No, but it works the first time.
It works the first time. So
It
I think
works
it's
the
literally
first
closing that panel does something.
No, well, closing that panel, actually, I don't think closing that panel, it did do something. Yeah, closing that panel doesn't do anything. It just releases the reference that is being held here, which is not that. No, that's the wrong thing. But yeah, you can see material asset gets set to null, so it just releases the reference. And in here, it's setting it to an asset that's passed in here, which again should be the correct material asset that we're rendering. And then we also serialize it, and it is serialized correctly. Okay, here's the next step then. If we chuck a breakpoint in here, when I open this, like it obviously has to be a different one, right? Because I believe when I open it, it's red.
It's red, yeah.
So
it opens the correct one, but it doesn't render the
yeah,
correct.
no, it's like it's made. Yeah, it's like Peter was saying. I guess it's like it's made a separate instance of it.
Yeah.
But how? Unless that's been explicitly copied, which could have happened. So what happens when we? But it's already been assigned. How did that end up happening? Okay, I just want to mention though that initially, like, I don't like this design because I don't think we should be passing around refs of assets. I think that we should be passing around asset handles. Because
We
first of all,
pass
this...
around refs of assets so much.
Yeah, I know. Because possibly before asset handles were a thing. Maybe.
Really?
Well, I don't know. But the thing is, we shouldn't do that. Like, and we don't do that everywhere. Because if you look at components, right? Most of these things are asset handles. It's just that the material table, internally, the material table stores actual material assets.
Yeah.
Which again shouldn't be a problem because as long as you... I know what it is. I think I know what it is. I think what happens is when the material changes on disk, and maybe when you press close or whatever, it probably loads it from disk again. And by doing so, it obviously it recreates it. But this guy is the old one. That's
So
what
now
that's what I
what
think is
creates
happening.
The other instance of it.
Yeah, so this is like the old one before it's serialized or whatever. You were initially editing that, but then I think when you load it, it's like it must do an on reload. We can actually check though. We can check this theory really easily. Because the asset manager, I don't know exactly where this would be, would probably have to reload that asset. So import asset, let's do import asset. Would that be it? Is that the thing that does the right thing? No. I'm looking for asset importer. So asset importer, try load data. Yeah, this guy. So if this runs, when I double click on this, which it
maybe it does.
Doesn't, but let's modify it. It does. As soon as you modify it, it runs. Because it loads it again. So where does that happen? On file system changed. Reload data, apparently. And see what it does? It like literally will import a brand new asset. It'll still have the same asset handle, but it's replaced this with another one. So now that reference that you had in the material table is completely, it doesn't exist anymore. It's an old version of the same asset.
But why is the material table not updated? Or is this not how we should do it?
Well, no, it's just the material table is not updated because it has no idea that the asset's even been reloaded.
Oh, because it's only
Because
on
it's not-
creation that it gets like basically made and that's it? Or how does that work?
Well, yeah, basically what you do is you have an actual ref of an asset. So you have an actual physical asset that you've set onto the material table. And then elsewhere, what happens, if you modify the asset, that's fine because the data is the same. It's the same pointer to the same block of memory. But if you decide to reload the asset entirely, you're replacing the actual object. So now you can't possibly like you know, automatically get the new
That's,
copy.
yeah, that's
You know what I
not
mean?
valid anymore. Yeah, okay.
It's not, yeah. And so the solution here really, and I could patch this up, but the real solution here would be to just, where's that material table? The real solution here inside material asset is we just should never be storing material assets. Like this should just be an asset handle. And that's it. So let's replace that quickly. That shouldn't really be too difficult of a change, but that's why. Because what will happen now is as soon as we need this, we reach for
Always get it.
yeah, we reach for the asset manager and be like, hey man, what is this asset? And of course, it's going to provide us with the correct one.
Yeah.
Because this is the identifying like way we identify it. So let's do asset handle. So I'm just patching this up to just be asset handle everywhere. And that's the beauty of asset handles. We might need to make the copying work differently, or maybe not, because yeah, that's the same. So basically just define replace kind of, let's just control F7 that. I might just do release mode here. I'm not about to run it though. I need to do a lot more changing. Let's do Shift F7 and see where it breaks. That's just gonna show us all the errors. No errors so far.
Because usually they come up early.
Okay. See in hierarchy panel. Okay, so as soon as we want to get this, and do we check to see if that's null though? No, not really. We're sure that it has one. So at this point then, it's still compiling, I think. Let's just stop it. Okay, so basically, we can just do get asset, material asset. Yeah, because we have another material asset handle here, so that's why I'm being specific with my words here. I could just shove that in here as well. I don't know. I like to write code out a bit more verbose because that way we can debug it easier. And of course, the compiler's going to make sense of that anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I'll work with this file for now, Control F7. Yeah, I know. I just like to, every error I fix, I basically,
make sure.
yeah, do that. So material here, material table, get material. So this itself is a handle, which is funny because what that means now is that when we get this, first of all, it shouldn't be const auto. And second of all, that can actually be the thing we return because it's going to be 0 if it's not there. Well, actually, let's look at this. So get material. Okay, so if no, but it has to. So this is weird as well because this function asserts if it doesn't have a material. Whereas here we're checking to see if material we returned is null, which is very weird. So that shouldn't. Yeah, you should ask it. Does it have a material first externally? So, but anyway, regardless, we can just do get material and remove that whole block. See again here, we're trying to get the handle, but it already is a handle. So this actually almost simplifies things because again, the rest of the engine mostly uses handles. I don't know exactly why this isn't like that. Okay, so here we're setting the material asset by actually dropping one on. So we just need to basically ask it for its handle instead of setting it directly because set material, actually, let me just double check that, but I'm pretty sure set material has to take in, yeah, an asset handle as well. I didn't screw that up. Okay, and last one is here as well. Okay, that's that file done. Yeah, this is gonna take a while. Could fast forward through this, the devlog. That might be fun for people to watch. Okay, this is interesting. So this is a material table that we create when we create a mesh. So if we now want to do that, what that would do, funnily enough, is it would actually create a new material asset because we're creating a mesh from mesh source. Now, is that really what we want to do here? I guess so, yeah, because we're instantiating it. So in this case, it's fine for us to do that, but we need to tell the asset manager about it. It's kind of scary that we weren't before because that is almost like a lost asset. So we actually have to do asset manager. I guess it would be a create memory only asset of type material asset because that's kind of what we're doing here.
By the way, I've seen this in the code. What is memory only asset? What does that mean?
It's something that isn't on disk.
So something that's going to die when you shut down.
Yes. Yep. Like it just doesn't exist on disk.
And what's the alternative called?
Just create. You can't do create asset. I think it's I don't even know. Might be in the editor asset manager. There definitely is. Yeah, create new asset. But you have to go through. That's not a generic thing because that's editor specific.
Yep.
Because the runtime can't do that. But the runtime can create memory only. Yep. Yeah, so we just do that. We pass that in. Right. Yep. But we have to actually do that in the for loop. Yeah, and so what that does is that gives us back an asset handle. And that handle is what we shove into here. Like that. So that's what that becomes, a little bit more complicated than the other fixes.
By the way, what is a static cast?
It's the same as a C style cast, but it just like a C++ way of doing it. Yeah. Oh, because it's a size T here, because it's size, but here it's number of materials. That's why. Yeah, I don't like doing this just because I think it adds a lot more code for no reason. So I prefer doing this, and the community will hate me for it, but that's just how I roll. And there's no runtime difference at all.
Okay.
It's just that static cast, like people say that you can kind of search for it, but it's like,
What do you mean search for it?
well, if you search for static cast in your code base, it'll come up. But like I've
But
never
you
had
don't
to,
get
in
it
all
to
my
see-
years,
yeah.
I've never had to do that once.
Yeah.
So I prefer to
And there's
just
no
do that.
performance difference, you say, yeah?
It does the same thing, compiles into the
Does
same
the
code.
exact same.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
There are different styles, like there's reinterpret cast, there's const cast, there's dynamic cast, and some of them do slightly different things. But static cast just is the same.
Mm-hmm.
You can use static cast in all places that you
And
use.
this is called implicit casting.
This is called a C-style cast.
C style cast.
Implicit casting is when you don't need a cast.
That's
So it implicitly
being
converts
converted,
I to, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so material table has material, so that's fine. But why is it not getting... Oh, no, because material table itself needs to be retrieved differently. Oh, no. Okay, so it's showing up here, but the error is probably here. So what that actually should do is give us a... We need to kind of divide this into two parts. So let's do... So there's either... Oh, but they're both material tables. Yeah, okay. So asset handle, material handle becomes one of those two. And then we do equals asset manager get asset. So one thing to be aware of is we are involving the asset manager now in the renderer, which I don't know if I would do that. Like that is a thing to think about, because one might argue that by the time you get down to Vulkan code like this, you should already have all of your assets kind of
Ready,
realized,
yeah.
meaning like they're already concrete types, not just like, yeah.
Hey, what type are you? Yeah.
So this is like, I might add like a little to do here, or just a little note to myself, just so that I'm aware that this is a bit, this needs maybe some design. So I'll do note probably at this stage, which basically all that means is that we have to construct a material table of actually ready materials outside of this function. But the other thing to consider is this runs on the render thread, because it's inside renderers a bit. And so that could also potentially be an issue. And that's part of the reason why we don't really like to do this, because the asset manager actually isn't thread safe. So we might, yeah, like I'll think about this. This might actually need better design. I don't think this is great to do, because if we're modifying the asset manager elsewhere while accessing it here, that could have like some kind of weird race condition. Yeah, with it for here it's fine, because it's on the main thread.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this is the type of bug that, because we don't run the editor multi-threaded, this is the kind of bug you'd only see in the runtime, which is kind of not great. All right, so let's do asset handle. Working on Hazel today.
Yeah, feeling it.
Yeah, that's rare for me. All right, where's my beautiful scene? Do you think
That's
this will work?
saved. Yeah, I think so.
I didn't hit.
I think
didn't hit
I think we
Control
might
S.
crash first up.
Really?
And if we don't, it will work. Yeah.
Green emission is red. Beautiful. That's what I want. Okay, so that works. That's fine.
And we were expecting that to work because that worked before.
Yeah.
And that works now. Cool.
No, wait. Okay, so and then what do? We close it, we open it, and it keeps working. So that's fixed, right?
Yep.
See, it doesn't. What's interesting is that because of the way we do it, this used to happen before as well, but it doesn't update live while you do this.
Yeah.
You have to let go, which is a bit annoying, because otherwise that kind of sucks that you can't see it until you
have
let
to
go.
let go. Yeah. No, that is actually really annoying.
Yeah, cool. I guess that's fixed. Yeah?
Yep.
You want to play with it? Or are you happy?
No, I'm happy.
Tim's
what
happy,
I'm
everyone.
curious about is